bienvenue au débat d'aujourd'hui. Hello and welcome to today's debate. Avant de commencer, nous aimerions préciser que les terres sur lesquelles nous sommes rassemblés aujourd'hui font partie du territoire traditionnel non cédé des peuples Anishinaabe, Mohawk et Algonquin que nous devons non seulement respecter, mais également aider à soutenir. Before we begin, we would like to acknowledge that the land on which we gather today is a part of the traditional unceded territory of the Anishinaabe, Mohawk, and Algonquin people that we must not only respect, but also help sustain. Donc, je m'appelle Dania Maisonneuve et je suis journaliste à TVC 22. Je vous présente mon collègue José Cadorette, qui sera le modérateur pour ce débat. My name is Dania Maisonneuve, and I am a journalist at TVC 22. I introduce my colleague José Cadorette, who will answer for this debate. Cet événement se déroule en français et en anglais, sans interprétation simultanée. Tout au long de la soirée, nous commencerons nos remarques en français et nous les répéterons ensuite en anglais. This is in both English and French without simultaneous translation. Each time, we will start our remarks in French and then repeat the same in English. Je tiens à remercier les candidats de leur volonté à servir le public, ce qui est si important pour notre démocratie. I wish to thank the candidates for their participation in this debate and their willingness to serve the public, which is so important for our democracy. Merci à GoFM et The Review de Vankleek-Hill qui organisent cet événement avec TVC 22. Thanks to GoFM and The Review of Vankleek-Hill who are organizing this event with TVC 22. Nous remercions également la municipalité de Hawkesbury qui organise cet événement avec TVC 22 et qui nous loue ici. We would also like to thank the municipality of Hawkesbury for graciously hosting us here. Cet événement est un espace inclusif et sûr qui permet un débat respectueux. Aucun acte de harcèlement, de haine ou de violence ne sera toléré. This event is an inclusive and safe space for respectful debate. No acts of harassment, hatred, or violence will be tolerated. J'espère que vous apprécierez le débat et serez mieux informés à la fin de celui-ci sur certaines des questions qui ont un impact de la circonscription de Prescott-Russell-Cumberland. I hope that you will enjoy the debate and feel better informed at the end of it about some of the issues that impact the communities of the riding of Prescott-Russell-Cumberland. N'oubliez pas d'exercer votre droit de vote le 28 avril et d'encourager votre entourage à faire de même. Tous, peu importe votre âge, est essentiel pour conserver notre démocratie. Il ne faut pas la tenir pour acquis, car elle est attaquée ces temps-ci dans plusieurs pays du monde, y compris dans les pays comme le nôtre, qui ont une longue tradition démocratique. La démocratie et les droits humains sont faciles à perdre si nous ne sommes pas vigilants, mais difficiles à retrouver. Don't forget to exercise your right to vote on April 28th and encourage those around you to do the same. The commitment of everyone, regardless of your age, is essential if we are to preserve our democracy. We must not take it for granted because it is under attack these days in many countries around the world, including those like ours with long democratic traditions. Democracy and human rights are easily lost if we are not vigilant, but hard to get back. Je passe maintenant la parole au modérateur. Bon débat. I would now like to hand it over to the moderator. Enjoy the debate.
Bonjour tout le monde. Bonjour tout le monde. J'aimerais vous souhaiter à mon tour la bienvenue à toutes ceux et celles qui sont venus ici aujourd'hui. Hello, I'd like to take my turn in welcoming everyone here today. Je vous prie dans votre cellulaire ou de l'éteindre. Please mute or turn off your cell phone. Cet événement est filmé en direct sur la chaîne YouTube de TVC 22. Donc, s'il y a des bouts du débat aujourd'hui que vous avez manqué ou que vous aimeriez revoir, vous allez pouvoir le voir aussi sur la chaîne au cours des prochains jours. This event is filmed live on YouTube channel of TVC 22, and if there are any bits of the debate that you missed today, the video will be available later this week on the YouTube channel of TVC 22. Nous sommes heureux d'accueillir aujourd'hui 3 des 6 candidats et candidates qui se présentent dans la circonscription de Prescott-Russell-Cumberland. Je vais nommer les 6 candidats qui se présentent. Donc, il y a Ryder Finley du nouveau Parti démocratique, New Democratic Party, Giovanna Mignarelli, Liberal Party, Parti libéral, Débat Perrier, Parti populaire, Populist Party, Taylor Ryden, Parti vert, Green Party, Julie Séguin, Parti conservateur, Conservative Party, and Jason Saint-Louis, indépendant, Independent. So, as you can see, today we have with us Giovanna Mignarelli, Taylor Ryden, and Jason Saint-Louis. Comme vous le savez, il y a beaucoup de sujets que nous pourrions aborder aujourd'hui, mais nous n'avons que 2 heures. Nous avons donc dû en choisir 4 thèmes qui sont de compétences du gouvernement fédéral. Donc, les 4 thèmes qui sont débattus aujourd'hui sont l'économie et les relations internationales, la démocratie et la participation citoyenne, la francophonie, et le 4e thème, l'environnement et l'agriculture. As you know, there are many subjects we could tackle this today, but we only have 2 hours, so we had to choose 4. The topics under the jurisdiction of the federal government to be discussed during the debate are as follows. First is economy and international relations. Second, democracy and citizen participation. Third, the Francophonie. And fourth, the environment and agriculture. Avant que le débat ne commence, chaque candidat aura 2 minutes pour se présenter et 1 minute à la fin du débat pour faire des derniers commentaires. L'ordre des allocutions a été tiré au sort. Before the debate begins, each candidate will have 2 minutes to introduce themselves and 1 minute at the end of the debate to make any final comments. The order of speeches has been determined by draw. Pendant le débat, chaque thème comportera 2 questions. Notre journaliste, Dania, posera les questions dans les 2 langues officielles et les candidats pourront répondre dans la langue de leur choix ou alterner entre les 2 langues. Chaque candidat aura 1 minute pour répondre à chaque question. Après que tous les candidats auront répondu aux 2 questions d'un thème, il y aura un mini-débat de 5 minutes entre les candidats sur le thème choisi, mais un débat général. À la fin du débat, sur les 4 thèmes, vous pourrez poser une question ici en personne, ici, ou en ligne via la chaîne YouTube. So during the debate, each topic will have 2 questions. Our journalists will ask the questions in both official languages, and the candidate will be able to answer in the official language of their choice or alternate in both languages. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer each question. After all candidates have answered the 2 questions of the topic, there will be a 5-minute mini debate between them on the topic in general that has been discussed. At the end of the debate on the 4 topics, you may ask a question here in person or online via the TVC 22's YouTube channel. Donc, pour commencer, nous allons avoir les allocutions d'ouverture. We will have the opening remarks by each of the candidates. And the first candidate will be Giovanna Mignarelli. You have 2 minutes.
Merci beaucoup, Daniel José. Je suis Giovanna Mignarelli, votre candidat libéral pour Prescott-Russell-Cumberland. Je suis honorée de rejoindre l'équipe du premier ministre et chef libéral Mark Carney et de me présenter pour être la députée de notre circonscription. Je suis fière d'habiter là aujourd'hui. Je suis une unificatrice et bâtisseuse de communauté avec une vision forte en cette période très divisée dans l'histoire canadienne. J'ai 25 ans d'expérience en politique fédérale et 15 ans dans le secteur privé en tant qu'entrepreneur technologique. J'ai passé 10 ans à vivre et travailler aux États-Unis et en Europe. Ces expériences sont vitales maintenant avec notre relation avec les États-Unis en danger. Compte tenu des besoins de notre communauté et du pays en ce moment, je crois que je suis la meilleure candidate pour ce poste. Je me réjouis de participer respectueusement à ce débat avec mes collègues ici. Hello, everyone. Again, I'm Giovanna Mingarelli, your federal Liberal candidate here in Prescott-Russell-Cumberland. I'm honored to join Prime Minister Mark Carney and the Liberal leaders team to run to be the next member of Parliament in our riding. I'm proud to have grown up in Rockland and to be a resident there today. As a child, I attended École élémentaire catholique Sainte-Trinité and Rockland District High School. I've been schooled in both education systems. My first job was at the Rockland Golf Club, and now it's my turn to give back to our community. I have 25 years experience in federal politics and 15 years in the private sector as a tech entrepreneur. I've spent 10 years living and working in the United States and Europe. These experiences are vital now with our US relationship at risk. Given the needs of our community and the country at this time, I believe I'm the best candidate for this job. I look forward to respectfully participating in this debate with my colleagues here. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ryden is next.
Daniel, encore merci pour GoFM et TVC 22 et aussi le review pour faire hoster cet événement. Mon nom c'est Taylor Ryden, votre candidate de Parti vert dans notre circonscription de Prescott-Russell-Cumberland. Je grandis ici, mon école c'est PCPS, VCI. Mon job, premièrement, ici, un campground, je nettoie, j'évacuo, je suis un pâtissier, je livraison de bière à Boson Natural. Aussi, je suis le chef officier de la certification de la biologique de cette brasserie. J'ai en droit de l'entreprise petite et moyenne. Je suis aussi un jardinier. Je fais beaucoup avec la communauté. Je suis part de EcoEst, un groupe citoyen environnemental, le Nature Society de Vankleekil et tout ça. So I have a lot of roots here. Like I said in French, I worked at a bunch of different jobs, small, medium businesses. I have my friends here. My life is here. And I see the potential that this riding we have here. We're obviously facing a lot of threats, with the trade war right now with the U.S. There's change coming, and what I want to propose in the policies that we can do some fundamental change. We've got some good tax cuts for the working class, bring more proportional representation to our government. I think now is the time for the change. Change is coming. It's what change do you want to choose? So look forward to having a discussion with our fellow candidates tonight, and glad to see you guys coming out. C'est bon pour voir 3 de les 6 candidats dans notre circonscription pour présenter. So, ça c'est une bonne chose pour aussi la démocratie. So, commence.
D'accord, Monsieur Saint-Louis.
Yeah, good job. Bonjour, mon nom c'est Jason Saint-Louis. Je suis un ancien athlète professionnel. Je suis parajustice, justice. Et je suis un candidat de notre région, mais aussi je suis un parent, je suis un frère, je suis un fils. Et puis, I really want to come here today to get a chance to see people's faces, not just from behind the TV screen that we did. So first I want to thank you all for coming and taking your time to be here. I want to also give thanks to the land that we are on with my ancestors, the Anishinaabe. And really, for me, getting involved in this, I lost my businesses in 2020, and I decided that I wanted to see the change, so I needed to be the change. And so I lost my 2 businesses during COVID. I decided to go to law school. I got a couple of degrees, wanted to get into politics, so I could be in the seat that I'm in today, to hopefully gain the seat of being a member of Parliament. So where we stand today, I'm not here to convince anybody if you're red or blue or any other color to change sides. I want to speak again to the 52% of us who are people who did not show up to vote in our last election. 52% of people did not engage in the voting in our democracy, which is what we're also going to talk about here today. So maybe you are already independents. Maybe you don't believe in the system that's at play right now or in any party, that you will be truly represented. And I'm here to give you some information on how you, as an independent, if you want to be that way and vote for an independent, how you can have a voice so that you know moving forward that your voice will be heard up in the House of Commons. So today when we get talking, have this discussion, I'm going to be able to be provided some opportunities to talk to you about those things, and I really hope for some engagement, some questions from you guys, whether it's today or you reach out to me on my platform, jasonstlouis.ca, and we can have a discussion after that. Thank you.
Merci, Monsieur Saint-Louis, pardon. Donc, Dania va commencer avec le premier thème et la première question.
Donc, le premier thème porte sur l'économie et les relations internationales. So, the first topic is the economy and international relations. Comme vous le savez, les tarifs imposés par le gouvernement Trump ont déjà eu un impact sur l'économie de la région, par exemple les mises à pied à l'usine Ivaco de l'Orignal. De plus, ce conflit commercial rendra probablement certains produits plus chers alors que les Canadiens sont déjà aux prises avec un coût de la vie élevé. As you know, the tariffs imposed by the Trump government have already had an impact on the region's economy, for example, the layoffs at the Ivaco plant in L'Orignal. The trade dispute will probably make some products more expensive at a time when Canadians are already struggling with a high cost of living. Donc, ma question est, selon vous, quel sera l'impact additionnel du conflit intercommercial avec les États-Unis sur notre région et quelles mesures proposez-vous pour minimiser l'impact? So my question is, what additional impact do you think the trade dispute with the United States will have on our democracy? And what measures do you propose to minimize the impact?
Donc, je donne la parole à M. Riley. Mr. Riley.
Okay, thank you for that. So we can see obviously there's a change. President Trump wants to bring back manufacturing in the States. He wants to kind of reshape kind of global trade. So in that light, we can see this as an opportunity. We have to look at our industries and really retool them, make more in Canada again. We've, for a long time, do what we call a rip and ship way of resource extraction, and we just lose all the value. We need to bring more processing, so plus de la transformation dans notre endroit, in our economies. So think food hubs, for example, in our writing. So think our lumber. So instead of shipping off raw lumber, we milled it. We have lumber ready. We can use it in our Canadian housing that we also need to build. Also diversifying our trade partners. So looking at, say, Europe, for example. And also with the Greens, we have a proposal to do strategic reserves. So as a government, we would buy up things like potash, critical minerals, so we'll have stockpiles. And then we can kind of either make sure it's available domestically for economic use, or if prices increase, we can sell it off later, so create a buffer. We also want to make sure that we will have funds available for small to medium businesses that will have a hard time weathering the storm. And also, we're proposing a tax break for the first $40,000 of personal income. We're going to raise the personal income limit to $40,000. There will not be tax on that, and what that'll do is inject $50 billion into the local economy. C'est plus d'argent dans les poches de la personne pour acheter nourriture, payer le logement, pay off your debts, and invest if you can. So that's our things we're looking at implementing.
Le prochain, c'est M. Saint-Louis.
Okay, thanks for the question. Economics, there's a lot of talk about the tariffs, and what I'm hearing is we want to do something about these tariffs. Why have we waited until this time to invest in our own economy? Tariffs have been around a long time. We've had tariffs on, U.S., they have tariffs on us. What I want to look at is I want to find out, especially for L'Orignal, right? They're losing business. Where's that business going? Who is purchasing the products? How can we take that business and those same products and invest them into our own economy? If we're going to talk about steel, maybe there's industry for building supplies. Can we not use that company to help supply our own growth? I think these are questions that we need to sit down with these companies and find out. How can we support our own economy and our own growth? This is what we should be doing from the beginning. I'm not looking at this as a light of a politician wanting to have some bullet points to talk about to convince anybody. I live here. I see what's going on. I'm talking to my neighbors. We should be investing in ourselves right from the beginning. This is a conversation that we should have had for a long time now, and so I want to be able to meet with people to see how we can make this happen. Where are we missing? How do we supply our own demand? How do we help with building our own properties, eliminating red tape? There's a couple other things I could talk about in here with, our growth. I want to get into agriculture and environment after, but as far as some economics, I would propose, and I don't believe I have all the answers, but I would propose to eliminate consumer tax. Eliminating the consumer tax, everybody at every level would have some money to spend. I know for me, everything's taxed so high. I got 3 kids, I got a lot of bills that I want to pay, but if I had no consumer tax on there, I would have a little bit of extra income to be able to put towards things like my dental care for myself and my kids. I would have this little bit of extra income. So these are a couple of topics that I would like to, evolve on and grow and see how that could affect our communities if we didn't have so much tax to pay, because we are taxed highly right now.
Merci, M. Saint-Louis. Madame Mignarelli.
Thank you both for your comments. So the Mark Carney government is firmly committed to a strong and sustainable Canada despite the ongoing tariffs. We are standing strong against President Trump's tariffs, creating new jobs, cutting taxes for the middle class, and building the fastest growing economy in the G7. Specifically to Prescott-Russell-Cumberland, the key concern is protecting our workers. Iveco Rolling Mills was mentioned. Trump's 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum has hit Iveco very hard, with over 100 layoffs. I met with their president, Stéphane Orly, last week at the mills and a number of their workers, and they shared with me their concerns about industry and the state of their market in Canada and locally. And I'm committed to doing what's needed to keep their operations stable, which is the key word, stability. We need to stabilize the local economy. We need to stabilize the Canadian economy. We need to reduce inter-provincial red tape so that an abattoir in L'Orignal can sell their meat to Quebec, and it's ridiculous that they can't do that right now. And so there are a number of clear measures that are already, being put in place, that are already being worked on to continue to support our local businesses. I also want to mention the great importance of defending our farmers. I spent this past Sunday meeting with over a dozen local farmers and their families here in the riding. I'm deeply concerned about their well-being. To defend them, we'll need to keep supply management off the table in trade talks, and these are their words and their concerns. We want to bolster Prescott-Russell-Cumberland's agri-food sector with $200 million for processing and a permanent $6 million agri-stability cap, shielding our dairy, poultry, and egg producers from Trump's ongoing attacks. I'm going to leave it there.
Merci. Dania va maintenant poser la deuxième question.
Donc, quels sont, selon vous, les plus grands défis en ce qui concerne le coût de la vie dans le comté et quelles mesures proposez-vous pour que le gouvernement fédéral rende la vie plus abordable? What do you see as the biggest challenges when it comes to the cost of living in the riding, and what measures would you suggest the federal government take to make life more affordable?
On va commencer avec M. Saint-Louis.
Thank you for the question. Merci. Immediate questions are food, taxes, the cost of everything, and it seems when I trace it back to when I had my businesses, everything was good. The gas was not too bad. Cost of food was good. Now I find myself shopping based on what I'm seeing, what's on sale. Where do these costs come into place? When I trace it back and I speak to everybody, they're like, man, the carbon tax. The carbon tax has raised the price on everything. The cost of getting food everywhere, back and forth to places. Again, I don't propose to have all the answers. However, my proposal would be, I would like to eliminate the carbon tax as a proposal. Not to just bring the numbers down to zero to be later put up, eliminating the carbon tax. We also got to look at our government is investing into the Paris Accord at $1 billion a year of our money. So we all pay more in gas taxes. Is anybody driving less? I'm not driving less. I'm driving the same amount. So if we're going to redirect or put any money into anywhere, maybe we should be looking at other technologies like hydrogen engines. They're putting into use in Europe right now. Hydrogen engines, hydrogen cells, that could be reducing our carbon emissions if we want to talk about that. This could be providing new plants to be built here in Ontario and maybe even in our own areas to build these engine parts. We already have the vehicles that are being built. Some of them are not even being sold right now. They're just sitting on lots. So if we could reinvest in ourselves and our technologies, maybe these are the vehicles that could be sold into bigger cities where the carbon and the pollution is a little bit more rampant. And then we continue to support our oil and gas by having all of our other vehicles, transport, farming equipment still running on gas if that is the cost efficient for them. So this is a conversation I think we need to have, not just be told what's going on, but I'm talking to people and they're really open to these ideas and these new technologies. So these are just one of the avenues on which I have a proposal for.
Merci. Madame Mignarelli.
Oui, alors le gouvernement libéral va commencer avec réduire l'impôt pour la classe moyenne qui permettra aux familles d'économiser jusqu'à 825 $ par an afin que les Canadiens et les Canadiennes conservent une plus grande part de ce qu'ils gagnent. On élimine la taxe carbone sur les consommateurs permettant aux conducteurs de Prescott-Russell-Cumberland d'économiser 18 cents le litre d'essence, ce qui remet de l'argent dans les poches des travailleurs. On va combattre l'inflation et tarifs de front en tant que candidat libéral pour réduire les prix et protéger les familles de Prescott-Russell-Cumberland des coûts croissants et des défis commerciaux américains. We're also going to be boosting home ownership by removing the GST on homes up to $1 million for first-time buyers, saving up to $50,000, and offering CMHC refinancing for secondary suites to increase rental supply and ease housing pressures in Prescott-Russell-Cumberland. We really want to look at moving more money back into the pockets of our residents by eliminating the consumer carbon tax, again, saving 18 cents per liter on gas, and a liberal life more affordable, which is a liberal move to make life more affordable across Prescott-Russell-Cumberland. We're also going to be defending jobs dollar for dollar with the tariff response, ensuring that all of the revenue from the tariffs response is supporting Canadian workers and businesses, safeguarding Prescott-Russell-Cumberland's economic future. And finally, I'll be promoting very heavily buy local. There is no reason that we can't buy each other's products, sell to one another's across our communities. I think it's extremely important to increase the local purchasing power. It's a very, very easy way for us to support one another throughout this time.
Merci. Nous allons maintenant avoir un petit débat de 5 minutes sur le thème en général. Oh, Ryden. Oui, désolé. Monsieur Ryden.
I'll quickly say the last discussion we were talking about a buyer for steel and aluminum from Ivaco, and actually a quick aside is the canning industry. There's a canning company in Quebec. They make about 40,000 cans a year, not near the millions that are canning, but it ties into canning our vegetables, for example. So just want to close that loop. So I do want to mention again the tax cut. Enlève l'impôt pour la classe moyenne, the working class, to not tax le premier 40,000 $. So environ, that's a savings about $3,600 per family, per person, I mean. On mentioning for the carbon tax, for the Greens, kind of know where I'm coming from. We want to address pollution and putting a price, but on the same side, is there's government subsidies, billions that are going to the fossil fuel industry. So here we are putting a tax on pollution, raising the price and bringing subsidies to bring it down. We're pressing the gas and the brakes at the same time. So what we're proposing is let's take away public money from subsidizing. The fossil fuel companies have a good profit margin. We're actually seriously considering, a lot of these companies are actually mostly foreign owned. We would actually seriously consider nationalizing them, making sure that the profits come back to our citizenry. Look at what Norway did. They took their oil money and basically they've modernized their grid. They've actually, they have the most EVs, for example. So how do you take the money that could be there, and so you're not putting on people, pressure on people, having to choose between food and whatnot, raising costs. So taxing things we don't want versus, so we don't want to tax our earned income, but raising taxes on things like pollution. That's kind of the general strategy. Also, back to the interprovincial trade, Quebec has a lot of cheap energy, so let's start the east-west grid and trade. Let's buy some Quebec energy, bring it in for modernizing the grid. We need the power, so we can start powering our industries and our houses.
Merci, M. Ryden. Donc, maintenant, nous allons procéder au mini-débat de 5 minutes sur le thème en général. Ça n'a pas besoin de porter sur les 2 questions là, dont on vient de discuter. Et donc, vous avez 5 minutes pour parler entre vous 3, de façon évidemment assez respectueuse, mais je veux dire égale. Donc, essayez de ne pas parler pendant 3 minutes, là, vous seul, c'est d'être équitable. Merci.
So if I could start, yes. I want to just build on my last point, which was supporting local. So I think it's really important that we help all industries in the riding. So for example, for farmers, going back to the farmers. My mother's side of the family, by the way, are 5th generation Canadian dairy farmers. So this is very important for me. In terms of farmers, the Liberal Party and myself locally will support investments into risk management programs to assist with crops that face natural disasters. This is something that a lot of the farming community is very concerned about right now. Many farms are one season away from bankruptcy. If a natural disaster hits, they can't pay their dues, and they lose a crop. It's terrible and it's disastrous. So that's something that I really want to help with. For steel workers, my party is promising a $2 billion fund for the workers. And then finally, and then I'll move on to my colleagues, we want to continue countering Trump's threats. So Prime Minister Mark Carney and the Liberals struck back with 25% reciprocal tariffs, as you may have all seen, on 30 billions of U.S. Goods, pledging dollar-for-dollar counter tariffs, while also easing unemployment insurance wait times for Prescott-Russell-Cumberland families facing job cuts. So when I was at UVECO a couple weeks ago, one of the concerns is making sure that, after these 100 layoffs, there could be greater speed at ensuring EI. EI is not what the businesses want. It's not what anyone wants. They want their companies to be stable and for the industry to be stable and to not have to eliminate jobs. But in a situation like this where there's no other choice, increasing EI wait times is the right thing to do, and that is something that we are focusing on. Merci.
Okay, I'll jump in. Okay, thank you. So to that point, and I think we're talking about supporting local industry. I'll let you talk more about it, Jason. You mentioned hemp industry last debate, so I'll let you speak more to that. But there is a lot of local initiatives, manufacturing, fabrication that we have to leverage. So I mentioned VACO with the steel and aluminum. The Green Party is building up strategic reserves of these minerals. So example, if we want to boost up our local canning, so we can, the vegetables we produce, we can can them locally and distribute it across the country. Because most of our cans right now, we send the aluminum and steel down to the States, and then they send the cans back up to us. So we're kind of strangleholded there. They hold a lot of power in that regard. So things like tariffs, well, right now, our farmers, actually it's Chinese tariffs on canola and, for example, pork. But things where, again, we just build up our the timer disappeared, by the way, that we really need to boost our local economy, and Greens have been calling, buy local for a long time. So we have to retool what we have. Our riding is a breadbasket, so leveraging that should be one of our top priorities.
As a member of Parliament, I think that we would each have a lot of resources available to us in our government and the people who are really behind the scenes to help make all these things happen. We sit up here, read off of our sheets and what's going on, and really when it comes down to it, when you're with a party, the party is a bigger thing that's going to happen. Example, voting for an independent right now is not going to change who's going to become the Prime Minister. I think that motion is already in set. But by being able to have an independent candidate as your voice with transparency and accountability, you're going to get to know what is really being said and what's being proposed at the table. Why hasn't these governments done it already? Why are we waiting till now again to make all these things happen? Maybe your voices really haven't been heard. sit here, we show up, we talk about things, and all of a sudden at election time, all the great ideas come out. Provincial election, showed up, and the Conservative government's got $76 million to give out to our area at election time. I've spoken to Mayor of Hawkesbury, I've spoken to mayors of other regions. Election time, everybody gets what they want, and then once it's done, everything floats back to the way it is. So all I'm proposing is, at the seat at the table, I will have the ability to connect to the resources to make all of these things happen, which need to happen, but they should be happening. And so if you really want to see if your voice is going to make a difference, I'm encouraging you to consider voting for an independent so you can see how your voice will matter through transparency and accountability, to know that it's not just me saying what I'm going to say. I will be accountable to all the people, not just the people here, but the industries, the businesses, the farmers, everything's got to be connected, working together to make it all happen. So that's where I'm at.
Merci. Donc, nous allons passer au deuxième thème.
Donc, le deuxième sujet porte sur la démocratie et la participation citoyenne. So, our second topic will be about democracy and citizen participation. La désinformation, dont une partie est générée par des pays étrangers et l'intelligence artificielle, est devenue un problème particulier sur les médias sociaux. En outre, l'anonymat des médias sociaux a conduit à la propagation de la haine, du racisme, de l'intimidation et d'autres comportements incivils dans la sphère politique, notamment à l'égard des politiciennes. De plus, le nombre de femmes candidates à cette élection a diminué comparativement à l'élection de 2021. Le taux de participation aux élections fédérales des dernières décennies a été de l'ordre d'environ 65 % et, lors des élections provinciales et municipales, il est souvent inférieur à 50 %. Misinformation, some of it generated by foreign countries and artificial intelligence, has become a problem, especially in social media. In addition, the anonymity of social media has led to the spread of hate, intimidation, and other uncivil behaviors in the political sphere, notably towards women politicians. What's more, the number of women candidates in this election is down compared to the 2021 election. Voter turnout in federal elections in the last decades has been around 65%, and in Canadian municipal elections, it is often below 50%. Donc, ma première question pour les candidats est: que peut faire le gouvernement fédéral pour contrer la désinformation et le manque de civilité, surtout sur les médias sociaux? So my first question for the candidates is, what can the federal government do to counter misinformation and lack of civility, especially on social media?
Madame Mignarelli.
Merci. Alors, la lutte contre la désinformation, qu'elle soit délibérée ou non, est un problème grave dans notre société. Notre plan de lutte consiste à soutenir les institutions auxquelles les Canadiens font déjà confiance. Il s'agit notamment d'augmenter le financement de CBC et de Radio-Canada pour qu'elles produisent davantage d'informations locales. Pour moi, cela implique également de soutenir les organes d'information locaux comme TVC 22 et le régional, aussi pour lutter contre la désinformation. I think also community outreach is key to my campaign and way of politics. So far throughout this campaign, I've spoken to thousands of people, knocked on hundreds of doors, and have had many conversations across the riding. Feedback from the community is essential in making decisions that directly affect people in our riding. I have a strong background in helping to get more women elected in Canada. I previously worked for Equal Voice, which is Canada's only national multi-partisan organization committing to getting more women elected in Canada. I'm actually really proud that over half of our candidates here in Prescott-Russell-Cumberland are women. I would like to acknowledge that because I think that might be a first, and I think that's awesome. So I would like to celebrate all the other women candidates and also rejoice for my two, male candidates. That's great. But this is unique and it's great. So I think more communities across Canada should be celebrating all of the women that are running. And then finally, I think speaking with community members, various community members from different nonprofits and organizations to integrate their views into the political process is super important. and do that throughout the election campaign. I've been doing this through a variety of meetings, and I'm going to leave it at that and take it back later in the debate.
Merci. Monsieur Ryden?
Merci. So avec ça, pour le média, bien sûr, ensure that le CBC pas le politique, interference politique, so make sure there's no political interference in the CB so it can do its mandate. Clarity. Aussi, envoie le soutien pour le média locaux comme TVC 22 et aussi GoFM, le Review régional, tout ça. Bien sûr, without eyes and ears locally, we really don't know what's going around. So it's good to make sure we support local media. Mais je pense que le stratégie important, c'est pour le gouvernement, c'est devenir un gouvernement plus honnête, plus transparent. So making your government more honest and transparent. So for instance, what Greens we want to put forward is making freedom to information requests so we can see how your public money is being spent. That I think will be a long way going to show to people that we have accountability. We literally will show the accounts. OC, we want to take out, there's a lot of consulting costing billions of dollars and our public service isn't doing, we're kind of offshoring the responsibility. So we want to bring that back to public service, and so that way, if something goes wrong, someone is accountable in government, so putting more faith in the institutions. Also, I mentioned electoral reform, la réforme électorale, so on a besoin un peu plus proportionnel, représentation proportionnelle. So, comme tu dis, si un parti devenir 5% de le vote, il avait 5% de le pouvoir. So if your party gets 5% of the vote, your party gets 5% of the seats, 5% of the power, and so on and so forth. That way you're going to see a lot of smaller parties, independents, for example, as well, that aren't beholden to having to toe a party line. You'll have more voices, and that way you can actually have a conversation.
Merci. Monsieur Saint-Louis?
This question I was really happy to see because it's directly connected to the tech companies that I'm working with right now, Evolve Blockchain, Evo Health. And when I was talking about everybody being able to participate in this, new technologies are here. I'm working with a lot of youth, 18-year-olds and up. They're getting more involved. They are savvy on the tech, apps, technology. Who here doesn't have a cell phone with some kind of app on it, right? There's some who don't. So we have logistics that are looking at how we can connect to those constituents who don't have the access to the technologies. We're looking to make everybody have the ability to have direct democracy. Doesn't matter if you don't have technology or if you do. How this is going to work is example. Let's say on one of my proposals, I want to put up that we want to make pensions a tax-free income. Okay, so we've got, let's say, 30 days. Everybody gets connected. We make sure every constituent has the information. There's going to be information available to you on the pros and cons and how that'll affect our economy, whether it's on a larger scale or in our own area. And then everybody gets to get that connection. You get to make an open vote. It's a public ledger that's only connected to you. You get to make a vote on it. Do you want to have your pensions tax-free income? Do you want to raise, ODSP? Any of the topics that are going to affect us constituents directly, you're going to have a direct say and a vote on it. You're going to see it in real time. You're going to see how many people voted, and you're going to see what that yay and the nay is. From there, I take that back to the House of Commons, and I say, this is what our constituents want. This information should be relayed to every other member of Parliament across the country so that every person gets connected to it. If we were talking about we want direct democracy, this is what it looks like in the future. It's not hoping and praying that my elected MP is going to make sure that they do what they said they were going to do. How do we really know? Hasn't worked for me. I've given lots of proposals to my former MP, never heard back from, don't know what my proposals came back to. So this is a way for everybody to get connected. I encourage you to go to jasonstlouis.ca. My information is on there. You can read more about it. Thank you.
Merci. Nous allons maintenant procéder à la deuxième question.
Donc, que peuvent faire les partis et les gouvernements pour encourager plus de femmes et de jeunes à s'impliquer en politique? Et croyez-vous que les partis politiques devraient s'assurer qu'au moins 50% de leurs candidats soient des femmes? What can political parties and governments do to encourage more women and youth to get involved in politics? And do you think political parties should ensure that at least 50% of their candidates are women?
Monsieur Ryden.
Et bien sûr, on lève the barriers. Yeah, in our consensus way of running our party, we want to make sure that no one, depending on gender, religion, whatever, is turned away. So we would support that. And back to, making sure younger voters as well feel that they're part of it. We propose, lowering the voting age to 16 as well, because engaging more of the youth as well. We need, and I mentioned electoral reform before, I think that's kind of the pin, if we were to say any party can bring this up. Actually, I think it's in the platforms of most of the other parties. And again, really just whoever gets elected, this proportional representation exists. It exists in Europe, and I'll come back to that because the more representation you have, the more options you can see the diversity that is in your society. And the differences of opinions and really get to the table how we can work and find compromise. So I'll bring up the Netherlands. There's a farmers movement, the farmer citizens movement, that formed about 5 years ago. Because of proportional representation, they are the, I want to say second largest, but they might actually be the largest political party right now in the Netherlands. A lot of political power wouldn't have been possible with first past the post. You see in Germany and France as well, proportional representation, they can guard against garder contre la polarisation. So they make coalition governments, so you can have right parties, left, center parties. You have to make compromise. So quand tu fais une coalition de gouvernement, tu as besoin pour faire une compromisation. You find solutions that work for everybody, but you have a discussion. You don't demonize one side or the other.
Merci. Monsieur Saint-Louis?
I think it's a great idea to have more people involved. I've developed a little program. It's a program that I'll be doing with some of the high schools to connect to the 18-year-old students moving out of high school, getting ready to go to college. And we're hoping to connect us with the other independent candidates in our association, the Independent Candidates Association of Canada. And that is to get to high schools, talk to these young students about direct democracy, Bill of Rights, Charter of Rights, and new technologies that they're coming to interview with on how they can get into politics. I think education is a key. We need to be maybe teaching this to these students at a younger age. My kids have said, there's a lot of topics, we do book reports that I don't feel are really connected to what I want to do in my life, and I'm spending time on it. More arts and culture type of thing, Shakespeare. I think they're, great things. However, my kids are telling me it's not what they need. And so by giving them courses which directly connects them to be more involved in our economies and our country, both the past, present, and the future, maybe that would encourage younger students to get more involved in politics, both men and women. Certainly my daughter has seen what I've done, engaging in education and in politics and getting involved. And just by her engagement with me, she's now decided in grade 11 to take some more courses for law for grade 12, and she's going to follow my footsteps, go to law school. So she can be more connected to making changes if that's what she wants to do, or help people. She really sees what I'm doing with the politics, and I think I've encouraged her to do so. And also, her friends see what I'm doing. I got some of them, they're reaching out and saying hello and good luck with things. So education, getting these young people connected, we can't convince anybody to get into politics or get into anything. But I think by having open conversations with our youth and our children on how politics is affecting our livelihoods and what they have to look forward to in the next 5, 10, 15 years, maybe that's a bridge to gap to get more women and men and into politics in our youth. I think it's very important. Thank you.
Merci. Madame Mignarelli?
Merci. So I have so much to say about this. I'm really excited. So to start, there are two ways, in my opinion, kind of main ways that political parties can ensure that there are minimums to the number of women running. The first way is for a party leader to endorse this kind of policy informally as a standard, and I'll speak to that in a second. The second is through actual quotas, which I will also speak to. So number one, in 2015, former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau made news when he offered Canada the first 50-50 gender parity government, and then consistently maintained that throughout his term in office. That is a great way to demonstrate from the top, we believe in women, we believe in equal representation, and this government is not going to accept less. So that is one way, broadly speaking. The second way is quotas. Now, this is not a way that's been done in Canada, but has been successfully done in Norway. So in 1997, the Norwegian government came along and said, okay, guys, we believe that women and men are equal and should be equally represented in government. So they put in a law that all the parties were required to have minimum 40% women, 40% men. And that's what happened. And people, they complained for about 10 years, oh no, this is terrible, oh no, the women, what women are we gonna, they're not gonna be as good, oh, but what about the men and these different candidates, all the complaints. Within 10 years, it was fully normalized. And what's awesome about this is now, we talk about what are some of the reasons why women aren't running. Well, issues like women are often disproportionately required to be at home with their children. This is not a problem, it is a fact, right, that women are often the ones responsible, making it more difficult for them to go and do the 6:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. or later jobs of being a member of parliament. What happens now in Norway with fully normalized equal representation is you often see dad dates. This is actually true. Guys walking down the street with their baby carriages, with their Starbucks or whatever, having dates while their wives are at work, having fully normalized. The former Prime Minister of Norway drops his kids off at work in the morning and picks them up. He picked them up after work because they created new standards and new cultures around political participation for women and men to make sure that they were both able to do their jobs.
Nous allons maintenant procéder au mini-débat sur la question, le thème de la démocratie et participation citoyenne en général. Madame Mignarelli pourra peut-être continuer sur sa lancée de... donc,
avec plaisir.
Oui. Donc, vous pouvez... peut-être M. Ryden peut commencer ce mini-débat.
So I think further to what I was just saying, there are many ways that we can do this. And I think that now is a fabulous time to have the conversation because we've just gone through a decade of, normalizing women in senior leadership positions in the Canadian government. We're moving into a new government after this election. I think it's a wonderful time to continue to go deep into ensuring that women have equal participation. We have a great organization here in Prescott-Russell-Cumberland called Leadership Femne Prescott-Russell. And, I'm part of that. I know that my conservative counterpart, Julie Séguin, is part of that. There are a lot of women who are part of this wonderful organization. And I commend this organization for doing great work. I want to also talk about youth. And I honestly want to ask all of you very seriously, are you excited about this election? No? No? Are you not excited about President Trump, screaming over the border and all the anger and the vitriol? Seriously though, if you're not excited about it, why would a young person look at the news and be like, oh my gosh, I want to go be involved in that? Yeah, I want that. I want to get yelled at and harassed and bullied. Oh yeah, I want to be the candidate having my lawn signs torn down and people harassing me at the doors. Think about it. We talk about young people getting involved in politics, and then this is what we offer them. It's a joke.
OK, Madame Mignarelli. Vous pouvez passer la parole à quelqu'un d'autre. Merci.
Bon point. Comme nous sommes des role models, bien sûr. So, what example do we want to lead? Basically, on the Greens, notre co-chef, c'est Elizabeth May, une femme très forte dans la politique. She's been kind of leading the avant-garde, being a very strong woman depuis all these years, since depuis 2009. So we would make sure there's no barriers. I will have to double check on our policy. I'm pretty sure we talk for gender parity as well. To add to that, again, we want to make sure that we offer a platform that all genders are welcome, all ages are welcome. We want to engage our youth. We also, there's a bit of ageism for older people as well. We really have to tear down barriers and just what can we do, on the merits of that. So In that spirit, we would welcome all. And to your point, to ton point, really making politics a little less toxic. And again, la représentation proportionnelle, getting more voices in, so tous les gens est écouté, you're feeling like you're listened to, I think will help going a long way to showing what is out there.
I think it's great to have organizations to encourage women, men, different groups to get involved in things. I've spoken to some constituents about different topics in that. Some of them, you know, they look at groups like that. They don't want to. They ask, "Is this DEI? Is this making the position just more available to other people who aren't as qualified?" I think that if education is out there, these young women could have a support network to feel comfortable and confident about getting out and challenging for those positions. And I don't think there should be any adversity to it. But I think all around, education for all genders to go and apply for a job or be in an industry is really a right. That's who we are as Canadians. Get an education, put the work in, do your best, and you know, do everything you can to be successful for yourself. Sometimes you don't have the support and help from other people. You got to go after it and get it. I myself, I know I'm a product of that. I know my kids are a product of that. I know other people are a product of that. But I definitely fully support people getting support, like putting together an organization like you're doing, to encourage people to do that. Because sometimes that's all they need is a little encouragement, a little push, a little support, and next thing you know, that's the next leader of some organization and maybe even a country someday.
Merci. Nous allons maintenant procéder au troisième thème.
Donc, le troisième thème porte sur la francophonie. So the third topic is about Francophony. Le conflit commercial avec les États-Unis a dynamisé un sentiment d'appartenance au Canada et amené la population à vouloir défendre la souveraineté nationale de notre pays. Or, le français est au cœur de l'identité canadienne et pourrait constituer un avantage pour un rapprochement politique et économique à l'extérieur de l'Amérique du Nord, notamment avec l'Europe, et ainsi favoriser la diversification de nos marchés. The trade dispute with the United States has fueled a sense of belonging to Canada and led to a public desire to defend our country's national sovereignty. Yet, French is at the heart of Canadian identity and could be an advantage for political and economic rapprochement outside North America, particularly with Europe, and thus help diversify our markets. Donc, la question pour les candidats est: que feriez-vous en tant que député fédéral pour défendre les droits des francophones au Canada et plus particulièrement dans l'Est ontarien? So my first question for the candidates is, what would you do as a member of parliament to defend the rights of francophones in Canada and particularly in Eastern Ontario?
Nous allons commencer avec Mme Mignarelli.
Je parle beaucoup aujourd'hui. Fière de parler les deux langues officielles du Canada. Premièrement, en tant que candidate libérale, ici à Prescott-Russell-Cumberland, je défendrai toujours les deux langues officielles du Canada, essentielles à notre identité dans la seule circonscription à majorité francophone en Ontario. Je suis toujours en faveur d'investir dans nos langues officielles. Pour commencer, je renforcerai les médias francophones. L'engagement de 150 millions de dollars du premier ministre Mark Carney pour CBC Radio-Canada consolide notre principale source d'information en français. Et ça, c'est contrairement aux conservateurs qui veulent l'abolir et effacer l'héritage francophone de Prescott-Russell-Cumberland. Si je suis élue, je vais unir Prescott-Russell-Cumberland en faisant la promotion de l'anglais et du français ensemble pour que nos langues s'épanouissent et que notre communauté reste soudée. Okay.
Merci pour ça. Bien sûr, dans notre circonscription, la moitié, 52% de notre population, c'est francophonie. Et c'est bien sûr une culture fondamentale de notre pays. Pour ça, avec le Parti vert, on a besoin, comme Mme Ringle dit, pour le soutien de le média français comme le régional. et TVC 22 pour continuer à livraison les services en français. Aussi pour soutien d'autres façons. Je sais c'est un endroit provincial pour le healthcare, mais je pense que un assistant personnel qui vient à la maison pour envoyer le soutien pour une vieille francophonie qui ne peut pas parler anglais a besoin pour ensure que le service vraiment dans ces endroits importants est là pour la population. En face de ça, bien sûr, moi par exemple, désolé pour mon franglais, mais c'est vraiment une bonne chose pour les gens pour essayer pour faire la communication dans la langue. Et je me dis vite aussi, le peuple autochtone aussi dans cette conversation, parce qu'il y a aussi le premier peuple de notre pays, so n'oubliez pas leur part de tout ça.
Merci. Monsieur Saint-Louis.
Jusqu'à date, j'ai répondu toutes mes questions en anglais, alors je vais continuer en français pour la francophonie. Sûrement que je pense que c'est important de continuer la culture de notre langue bilingue, en anglais et en français. J'aime ça quand je travaille, pas juste à Québec, mais ici en Ontario, à Hawkesbury, toutes les autres places, que je vois des pancartes, des signes dans les deux langues ou des fois juste en français. Je pense dans nos régions où on parle plutôt le français, c'est très important de pouvoir être capable de continuer la culture en français. Aussi, donner l'information en anglais, parce qu'il y a beaucoup de gens qui parlent les deux langues. D'à peu près, nos services. Des services avec des docteurs, peut-être des infirmiers que nous avons, ne parlent pas la langue de français. Mais on a des technologies, Google Translate simplement, ou des autres technologies, dès que si quelqu'un arrive pour faire à leur docteur, puis c'est de quelqu'un qui ne parle pas en français, au moins on a les ressources de communiquer en français quand même. So, je pense que ça, c'est très important de faire sûr qu'on a dans tous nos services l'habilité d'avoir une conversation avec quelqu'un d'une autre langue, dès que ceux de vous autres qui veulent avoir les services en français, tu peux les avoir en français, même si l'autre personne ne parle pas en français. Alors, encore, je veux supporter la culture de parler en les deux langues ici au Canada. Merci.
Merci. La deuxième question.
Que proposez-vous pour assurer que la langue française conserve une place importante dans l'Est ontarien et joue même un rôle important dans le développement économique de la région? What do you propose to do to ensure that the French language retains an important place in Eastern Ontario and even plays an important role in the economic development of the region?
Nous allons commencer avec M. Hayden.
Bien sûr, la communication dans les deux langues officielles, et c'est une bonne idée pour utiliser des outils technologiques comme tu dis Google Translate ou Babelfish. Et tu apportes dans ton oreille, you can wear des choses dans ton oreille pour faire une translation dans le temps réel. Bien sûr, juste faire l'infrastructure dans les deux langues et vraiment partager toutes les idées, faire la traduction sur sur l'économie, sur le site web, sur tout le document. C'est une importante chose pour la communication.
Monsieur Saint-Louis.
Encore pour préserver la culture, je pense que sûrement dans les écoles, donner l'éducation que l'importance de comment on a commencé à parler en français, nos ancêtres qui ont venu ici, qui ont commencé la culture. Moi, je suis content que j'ai eu la chance de commencer en école en français. Dès que j'ai été à l'école secondaire, j'ai changé à anglais. Et puis, au moins toute ma vie, je peux en parler en français. Même avec mes enfants, il y a des cours en français pour eux autres. Des fois, c'est pas comme un French immersion. C'est pas assez de la langue en français. Alors, dans les régions où on a un gros monde qui parle en français, on veut faire sûr qu'on engage pour continuer la culture, pour en parler en français dans nos écoles.
Merci. Madame Mignarelli.
Comme Jason, moi, j'ai été à l'école en français et en anglais, ici à Prescott-Russell-Cumberland. Alors, comme j'ai déjà dit, pour l'élémentaire, j'ai été à l'école catholique Sainte-Trinité à Rockland, puis ensuite à Rockland District High School pour le secondaire. Alors, quand j'étais petite, comme toutes mes amies étaient francophones, on célébrait toujours les journées francophones comme la journée de la francophonie, etc. Puis je pense que c'est très important pour les jeunes de grandir dans un environnement francophone ici à Prescott-Russell-Cumberland pour qu'ils puissent comprendre la culture, l'importance de la culture francophone pour qu'on puisse le protéger pour les générations qui suivent. Parce que c'est vrai, M. Trump, OK, je veux pas... Il faut que je parle comme... sans Christ de la francophonie. C'est ça la manière de le dire. Alors maintenant, aujourd'hui, c'est très, très important qu'on protège notre langue de l'école jusqu'aux places du travail. Puis je pense que c'est assez facile de le faire en promouvoir encore les événements francophones, célébrant les événements francophones, offrir plus d'investissement dans les programmes francophones ici et aussi supporter les bureaux francophones, les entreprises francophones pour que l'économie à l'Est de l'Ontario ait plus d'accès aux entreprises francophones. Alors, je vais laisser ça comme ça.
Merci. Maintenant, nous allons procéder au petit débat de 5 minutes sur la francophonie en général. N'importe quel sujet qui se rapporte à la francophonie est la bienvenue. Vous pouvez commencer, qui vous voulez.
Je pense que je vais commencer avec ça. Sûrement, la seule chose que j'ai eu parlé avec les électeurs de la région, c'est que la seule chose, c'est que quand ils arrivent pour avoir leur service avec les docteurs puis les infirmiers, c'est qu'ils aimeraient avoir plus d'engagement en français. Alors, je pense que c'est important encore de supporter les nouvelles technologies qu'on peut être capable de communiquer avec ceux qui parlent en français et avec nos docteurs puis nos infirmiers. C'est ce que j'entends.
C'est actuellement avec ça, juste l'exercice pour devenir bilingue sur la culture spéciale de le français, mais pour, c'est plus bon pour la santé de ton cerveau. Tu connais différentes langues, tu connais différentes façons pour penser. C'est une chose spéciale dans notre région. Et je fais mon devoir de ça, mais je savais que c'est une spéciale chose qu'une culture comme la francophonie dans Ontario. On voit l'autre endroit qui fait plus d'assimilation, on perd la culture, on perd la chose qui est spéciale avec des différentes cultures. Vraiment, c'est une chose spéciale. Vraiment protéger ça dans notre école, dans notre communauté, dans notre entreprise, bien sûr dans notre famille. Devenir plus fier de ça. Je suis 100% avec ça, et je me en viens pour vous.
Merci. Je vais parler en anglais juste pour un instant parce que c'est important que je fasse ça en anglais. So, we're talking about the two official languages, and we're talking about a riding where the majority of the population is French-speaking, and it's the only riding of this kind in Ontario. I think it's really important that Anglophones understand why Francophonie is important. I think a lot of Anglophones don't understand the cultural significance of why Francophones are so proud of their culture, of our culture, and why that's important to Francophones. I actually think in the English language school system, like kids are taught more in our region about Francophonie, pourquoi c'est important, because otherwise they won't get it, right? You go to a French immersion school, you grow up, you're like, okay, I'm at whatever elementary school in Brooklyn or Auront or whatever, and you grow up, you go through French immersion, you learn the functions of the language, right? So you can speak French for work or whatever it is. But if you don't understand the cultural context of why that's important to the kids near you, the businesses that are growing up, like that's what creates the ongoing duality of the English-French language spectrum, right? Like the arguments and the separation, like it comes from a lack of education. People don't get it. And I think that we have to invest more in kids actually understanding, like la francophonie, pourquoi c'est important aux francophones, pourquoi ça devrait être important aux anglophones aussi. Right? And I think, because we're not talking about two separate things. We're talking about one community that's living harmoniously here in Prescott-Russell-Cumberland, two very important languages that are inseparable, and people just sometimes don't connect the dots. Right? So I think that when we talk about official languages, we need to talk about supporting the Francophone language and culture, making sure kids get it, and of course, like growing up into adulthood and maintaining that culture, and then supporting English kids in getting the Francophone culture, why that's important, why that's meaningful, and then they grow up in their lives, maybe they're in French immersion, right, but they still get it, right? Any of the French schools you go to here, you're fully, like you leave understanding that. But it's, I think, not so easy with the English language school system and how kids learn French. So I want to leave it at that.
Merci. Donc, nous allons maintenant passer à la quatrième et dernier thème, l'environnement et l'agriculture, the last topic of the day, environment and agriculture.
Donc, en raison du conflit commercial avec les États-Unis, la protection de l'environnement a été moins présente dans les débats de cette élection. Par ailleurs, l'exportation de l'énergie canadienne vers l'Europe et l'Asie, plutôt que vers les États-Unis, a suscité beaucoup d'intérêt, mais non sans de forts désaccords entre les provinces et entre les partis politiques fédéraux. Par ailleurs, le secteur agricole est très affecté par le conflit commercial avec le gouvernement Trump. Due to the trade dispute with the United States, the protection of the environment has been less prevalent in this elections debate. On the other hand, the export of Canadian energy to Europe and Asia instead of the United States has garnered a lot of interest, but not without strong disagreements between provinces and between federal political parties. In addition, the agricultural sector is very affected by the trade dispute with the Trump government. Donc, ma première question est, comment le gouvernement fédéral peut-il aider les agriculteurs de notre région qui sont touchés par le conflit commercial avec les États-Unis? How does the government help farmers in our region who are affected by the trade dispute with the United States?
Nous allons commencer avec M. Saint-Louis.
Good, thank you for the question. As I was talking to some farmers that are in my area, a couple of things they told me to really invest my time into was understanding supply management. Asked them what was most issue pressing to them, and they said the cost of feed, the cost of fertilizers, and then of course they're selling their product. So I think that some of the things I was talking about earlier about farming initiatives that I'd sent to my previous the party that I was supporting, I had some ideas, and so one of the things we did was we looked at how much produce, let's say in our region, do we produce, or that we need from all the grocery stores. How much produce is ordered, and then with that, how much farmland do we have, how much farming do we have available that we could produce, harvest, process, and then distribute to our municipalities. and support our municipality first. Would that be a way where farmers could be involved, where they would be like, okay, I could get a better dollar for my product. We would lower our emission footprint rather than importing food from all over the place. Why can't we be sustaining ourselves? I don't have the answers, but being in the seat, I want to be able to have the answers, and I need to speak to the farmers and the people who are directly involved. If we can have a municipal farming initiative that could see farmers supporting our own region right here, the Glengarry, Prescott-Russell, because that's what we were talking about. If we can manage that and take that logistic result and spread that out across our country, are we then supplying our own demand? Are we taking care of Canada first and then seeing what else we could produce to export? And then some of the farmers are really like, okay, that sounds like a great idea, right? We want to know more. We need to have a bigger discussion. But I think it takes a lot more of the people and the farmers to be involved and to have these discussions on what is really going to work for you. Some of them felt that there's too much bureaucracy, there's too much government interference with going on, and demands for this, and you can only sell this. The farmers need to have control because they know what's going on. They can't be losing land because they're not selling or making as much money, and then they're giving that land up, selling it off to developments where they really don't want to. Maybe some of them need more land. They want more land because they could do more work. They could be employing more people. There's a lot of logistics going on, and until you farmers and we the people and the consumers are together and really have our voices heard and we really know what's going on, I think that's where we're going to be able to benefit ourselves. So that's really what my priority is wanting to know, is to get connected to all these different little pockets of how we can support ourselves first before we are worried about what is going on elsewhere. I'm not saying it's not important that we're not affected by tariffs, but thank you.
Your time's up. Madame Mignarelli.
So building on your great points, so as I mentioned previously, I spent last weekend meeting with about a dozen farmers and their families in the riding. So this included dairy farmers, poultry farmers, and a few others. And the purpose of the meeting was to understand, what are the farmers worried about? Like, I sat there and said, what is it that I can help you with? What is it the federal government can help you with? And resoundingly, their concern is supply management, right? So number one, it's keeping things stable, it's keeping the economy stable. I think all businesses that I've met with are concerned about stability first, right, in the face of the tariffs, and maintaining their business operations and employing their workers. There's no question that that is the number one. Right? People just need to get through the tariffs. But within that context, supply management and protecting the farmer supply management system against the U.S. Tariff threats, especially the eventual CUSMA renegotiations, is of the utmost importance. Also, we look at no compromise on sovereignty, right? So I don't think we have to say that Canada's sovereignty is of the utmost importance. Prime Minister Mark Carney has vowed to protect supply management and keep it off the table in future Trump talks, to protect our Prescott-Russell-Cumberland dairy, poultry, and egg farmers from America's attacks moving forward. And also, in terms of energy, right, the Liberal government has committed to clean tech subsidies to help our agri-food sector grow sustainably here in Prescott-Russell-Cumberland, ensuring our rural communities thrive despite tariffs.
Merci. Monsieur Ryden.
Good points brought up. I mean, Greens as well, protecting the supply management system, that protects small farms from being bought out. We can see in the monopolies in the States, factory farms, how that's turning out. So it's protecting that way of life and kind of in more sense, a sustainable way of production. To that effect, thinking about how we retool. So for instance, we buy ethanol from the States, which basically helps U.S. corn growers. What we could do, it will not be a flip of the switch, but do we look at making more ethanol locally, or at least nationally, but taking the corn that we grow, and a portion of that might be going to feed, but a portion of that we could maybe redistribute to biofuels. Because right now that's taking a hit with what's happening with the trade war. So in the interests of kind of something more sustainable fuels and whatnot. Also to that effect, really getting more local food hubs. So Giovanna mentioned, an abattoir locally. Actually, Stéphane Cerizet had been a champion for having a food hub in our riding. We need to process more of what we produce, supply our local economies, and of course we have Europe, Asia we can feed as well. So really leveraging that. On the energy front, actually on the circular economy front, promoting technologies like biodigesters, which takes industrial food waste, manure, things that create methane, that's an emission issue, but you take biodigesters, which you can recycle these nutrients that, say we implement the municipal wastewater treatment systems, instead of flushing nutrients down the way, we can recycle all that. And so basically, instead of having to make fertilizer from, say, fossil fuel sources, we recycle a lot of that nutrient load, so instead of throwing it away. So bringing in the circular economy, leveraging technology that we have. And it can make power as well, biodigesters.
Merci. Maintenant, la deuxième question.
Que pensez-vous des compromis économiques, politiques et environnementaux qu'implique la coordination de la consommation nationale d'énergie du Canada avec ses exportations d'énergie vers l'Europe et l'Asie? What do you think the economic, political, and environmental trade-offs involved in coordinating Canada's national energy consumption with its energy export to Europe and Asia?
Madame Mignarelli.
Okay, so that's a big question. I think that in general, there are very, very clear issues with the tariffs, what it means for Canada's energy consumption, stabilizing our national energy consumption to ensure that we have what we need, while developing new partnerships with Asia and Europe. Those conversations are ongoing, and I think that they're being dealt with in a meaningful and important way at this time by the Liberal government. There are concerns about making sure that we maintain our current partnerships in terms of energy consumption, et cetera, while expanding our new base of partnerships internationally, both to Europe and Asia. I know that Mr. Carney has been traveling quite a lot and visiting with our European partners, since he became leader of the party, to demonstrate, greater possibilities for relationship building for Canada and our partner countries. So I'm going to leave it at that.
Merci. Mr. Ryden?
So leveraging energy. So first off, this is bringing up, I know there's been talks about pipelines and whatnot, and coming from the green point of view, there's a certain amount of carbon budget we have to kind of try and stave off that we can use up before hitting critical temperature limits. I mentioned removing subsidies from fossil fuel companies, so public dollars. Also nationalizing fossil fuel companies would be another tax, so that way whatever resource extraction would actually go back to the economies, and we can take that money and then reinvest into cleaner technology. Leveraging LNG. Right now we don't have pipelines to the East Coast, but to the West, if we were to ship to Asia, within that carbon budget, but we have to be very, very aware that there is going to be a carbon price. There's an environmental debt when we use up this. So it might not be us paying it, but it will be our children paying it. So we have to be very wide-eyed about that. Leveraging what we have other resources, not just oil and gas. We have natural resources. We have water. We have lumber. We have our food. And we really need to take this opportunity as well to develop and modernize our grid. So we talk about East Coast to West Coast energy grid. We can generate electricity, we can transmit that across our country, and I keep pointing to Cumberland, where we are right in our riding, at our doorstep, we can bring in and be part of that modernization of our grid, bringing in a lot of cheap power from Quebec, and really getting that interprovincial trade partnership going. And we can power a modern electric economy using Quebec energy.
Merci. Monsieur Saint-Louis?
Yeah, you're right. It was a big question. There's a lot to it, and it almost seems like it's a bigger question than what we're here for, to discuss our own riding. But we are affected by the prices of things. I think that I would probably, on the question, say, yeah, I would support that we produce and supply our own demand for oil and gas. Is that by having more refineries and pipelines across our own country? There's a lot of logistics with that. Would that bring our own costs down, that we're supplying ourselves? It sounds like it would, based on what what the professionals are telling us. I'm going to redirect it to here, to what we need. We've got enough farmland that we could look to invest in things like the hemp farming initiatives. Hemp farming produces 4 times more pulp than 1 acre of trees, 1 acre of hemp versus 1 acre of trees, and you can get a couple crops off in a year. Farmers could, without any trouble, just move some equipment on their machines to be able to harvest the hemp as well. I've talked to a couple of professionals about that. We could be creating jobs with these hemp farming initiatives by the harvesting, supply, and demand of it. These can be turned into textiles, hempcrete for building houses, textiles for building homes, which, if we're going to be building new homes in our areas, this would help to reduce the cost, make jobs for people. It can be used for food, feed, clothing. So we have the ability to use these hemp farming initiatives in our own regions to give some money to our own economy, while we're still wanting our rest of our country and government elected officials to support us and our needs by our energy consumption and energy trade across the border and even interprovincially. So I think, again, let's not take too much of the focus off what's going on out there, but we need to also look at what is affecting everybody here. How can we develop some systems that are going to benefit us, so we can take that logistically and maybe share it across the other provinces in our country, so we are building a strong community from within.
Merci. Nous allons maintenant procéder au mini-débat de 5 minutes sur le sujet de l'environnement et de l'agriculture en général.
On the note for hemp, actually, they can actually be used in car body parts, and you can make it from hemp. So very versatile, leveraging what we can grow. So another part is redistributing. So if we take subsidies off oil and gas and put R&D into boosting agriculture sectors like making hemp, or actually there's also so right now we base a lot of our food off grains, annual grains. There's a movement to actually use nuts, like hazelnuts, for example. So there's some local farmers in the area that are going regenerative farming, but using nuts as the basis for our food supply, making flour from nuts, hazelnuts, things like that. That will take, obviously, equipment, but leveraging, like you say, different methods that we can leverage the agricultural powerhouse that we have, and create novel materials, biodegradable materials. And again, if we use technology like biodigesters, all this waste can be recycled back in. We get fertilizer at the other end. We can burn that methane that these biodigesters produce to produce electricity to feed into our grid. And we have the tools. We have the know-how. Actually, so our co-leader, Jonathan, had said it. Canada has the skills, but none of the chaos of the States. So we've got the skills, but none of the chaos. So let's use it.
If I could just build on that. So some additional things that the Liberal government is doing to support local energy and clean energy are providing green incentives. So the Liberal government will provide incentives for Canadians to make greener choices, such as purchasing energy efficient appliances, electric vehicles, or improved home installations. We're also looking at balancing emissions and jobs. So we'll keep the emissions cap on oil and gas production in place and fast-track investments in carbon capture to meet those emission targets. Many of us have heard of the carbon tax. So Prime Minister Mark Carney-led government will immediately remove the consumer carbon tax, meaning consumers and small businesses will no longer pay a charge on fuels such as gas, natural gas, diesel, and home heating oils.
Is that only on the consumer, or is that everywhere? Because it has to be changed in legislation to remove the carbon tax. Just lowering the number and just taking the number off of the consumers, the big companies are still going to charge us for that. They're going to keep their prices going because they're paying the carbon tax.
Yeah.
If we don't think that's going to not get passed down to us, I got a hard time believing that.
My understanding is the industrial carbon tax is already removed. The consumer carbon tax is being removed.
So they're going to legislatively remove
Yes.
the carbon tax by law.
Yes.
Okay, which is what other parties are proposing to do also.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep. Anything else?
I would interject at that point is, again, pricing pollution, but taking, say, subsidies so that, again, the outcome is more or less the same, less high prices, but then the onus is on the companies that we aren't going to give you public money for your projects, but we will hold you accountable for the emissions. So it's the green strategy of like putting taxes on stuff we don't want, but taking taxes on stuff we do want.
Yeah, and I think, again, investing into some technologies that are going to, if we're talking about reducing our carbon footprint, saying they want to get to net zero. I was researching some studies where they say that we need about 35 billion trees in Canada with some technologies to become net zero. And the studies show that there are about 200 to 250 billion trees. So, some of the people are saying, well, we're already at net zero, right? So why are we paying carbon tax? Are we really in threat? We have enough trees that are consuming the carbon that we're emitting. It's other foreign countries that are not paying carbon tax and they're polluting, right? So we look at India and China and places like that. So we still want to do what we can for ourselves. I've been to the big cities. It gets pretty smoggy there when you're driving around. So again, if we're going to be taking any of our tax dollars to give to anybody, before we're giving it away to foreign countries and foreign entities to go and invest in other areas, we should be taking our tax dollars to support ourselves. Tax dollars locally for us, and if we want to help with the initiative on new technologies, then there are hydrogen engines that are available to be used. They're in existence, they work, they know they work. Why haven't they been implemented? Maybe it's because the oil and gas sectors don't really want it because maybe they're not going to make as much money as they did. So if we're taking out profit from the equation from these companies and we change it over and look at hydrogen engines, hydrogen fuel cells, and give incentives for people in those big cities. Maybe, they're not paying as much for those vehicles because they are living in big cities. And then for those of us on the outlying areas, hey, you want to make a difference in your carbon emission footprint, then that might be an option for you as well. We know that as far as electric vehicles, those batteries are poisonous. And to make a car produces more emission than a regular gas car is going to put out in its lifetime. And then we got to dispose of those batteries and they're toxic. So we need to look at some other alternatives, how to support our ecosystem, not now, but into the future for our children and our grandchildren.
Merci. Ceci conclut maintenant la partie débat qui était prévue, les questions qui étaient prévues. Nous allons maintenant procéder aux questions du public. Il nous reste environ 25 minutes. Il y avait la possibilité en ligne de poser des questions à l'avance. Donc, nous allons commencer avec 2 questions que nous avons reçues à l'avance en ligne. Et puis, vous aurez environ 1 minute pour répondre à ces questions-là. So, there was the opportunity to ask a question in advance on our social media. And so we will proceed with these 2 questions first. And the candidates will have 1 minute to answer. And then we will then go on to, if you want to ask any questions. Évidemment, le nombre de questions allouées dépendra du temps qu'il reste au fur et à mesure, mais évidemment, on vous demande, si vous venez poser une question, d'être aussi bref que possible. Puis, the number of questions will, of course, depend on the time that we still have remaining. So, but please be brief so that we can have more questions. N'oubliez pas que votre question devrait être pertinente autant que possible aux compétences du gouvernement fédéral, toujours évidemment posée de façon polie et respectueuse. Please remember that your question should be relevant to the jurisdiction of the federal government and should be, of course, asked in a polite and respectful manner. Si vous venez ici au micro, gardez à l'esprit que votre participation sera filmée et diffusée sur YouTube. So keep in mind that your participation will be filmed and broadcast on YouTube if you come here to ask a question at the microphone. Donc, nous allons maintenant commencer avec les 2 questions et ensuite, vous pourrez venir au micro pour poser votre question si vous le désirez.
Donc, nous avons une question de Eleanor Foy de Bearbrook. So we have a question from Eleanor Foy from Bearbrook. Soutiendrez-vous activement une modification de la formule fédérale de financement des services de garde d'enfants afin de payer directement les parents, de sorte qu'ils puissent choisir le type de service de garde d'enfants le mieux adapté à leurs conditions de vie en zone rurale? Will you actively support a change in the federal funding formula for childcare in order to pay parents directly so that they may choose the type of childcare best suited for their living conditions in a rural area?
Nous allons commencer avec M. Ryden.
I will have to defer. I'm pretty sure it is in our platform. I'm not sure what exact numbers. We're going to be releasing actually our fully costed platform this Wednesday on the 16th. So Eleanor, thank you for the question. I wish I had some concrete numbers. Yes, we're looking to make sure that daycare options will be there and be flexible. So I would invite you to go to greenparty.ca. April 16th, this Wednesday, there will be a fully costed platform. You'll see how we're going to spend the money, and that should be in there.
Merci, M. Saint-Louis.
Yeah, I was a single parent at one time. My 2 oldest kids are now 18 and 16, and I wish that there was more funding available to me when I needed a daycare system. It was really hard for me to balance making work happen, being able to afford daycare. Sometimes it just seems like I was working just to be able to afford the daycare. That didn't seem like it was, supporting what I was trying to do, trying to build a life for my family. So I definitely want to support making sure that single parents or even families who need daycare for their children is accessible. I think there's a lot of conversations to be had with those people who are getting involved in the industry, because they got to make sure that they're making a living, they have an income to be able to take care of of kids, whether it's in private daycares or it's in schools that offer those services. So we definitely need to support those services. Where are we getting that money from? We have to, yeah.
If I could just jump in, because there's 5 seconds left. My mom is a mother of 7 children, stay-at-home mom in Rockland, and I'm very proud of the Liberal Party's $10 a day childcare.
That's
Yes.
your answer?
Well, we have no time left, so can I?
No, 1 minute each.
Oh, sorry. I thought we had 1 minute in total.
okay.
I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off, Jason.
I'll share the
That
5
was
seconds.
basically my whole I have 5 seconds. I'm proud of my mom and $10 a day childcare. Please go ahead.
Awesome.
I
Yeah,
cut you
no, I
off.
support that. And, moms who can help out and support as well is a good thing. So I definitely want to help do what I can to be able to support that. It's definitely needed the way things are with people wanting to work. Even myself, going back to school, right? I had to have some childcare and stuff like that. So it has to be a service that's available to everybody. It's kind of like looking after ourselves as a community. So very important.
Thank you. Madame.
I'm so sorry. But I'm obviously very passionate about this. So thank you, Eleanor, for the question. Yes, I will actively work to make sure that parents directly receive childcare in our riding. As I mentioned, very, very quickly, at the end of Jason's question, the Liberal Party has a $10 a day childcare. This is now in effect until 2030. I'm very, very proud of this. I can't tell you how many times I've heard my mother say, when we were growing up, we were 7 kids. It was actually impossible for her to go out. She was a nurse before having her children. And it was not possible for her to go get a job because it would cost more. She'd be paying, she'd be paying someone to go work for them, right? Because essentially the cost of raising 7 kids, the groceries and everything, it was impossible to get childcare for that many people, for that many children. And so my point is it made it possible, it would make it possible for someone like my mom who had 7 kids at home. You don't even have to have 7, I mean, just 1 is enough, to go out, work, and build a meaningful life. And so this is very important. It's a reality for many families in our riding. People, often women, need childcare so that they can build meaningful lives for their families. This, again, is a very good question.
Donc, la deuxième question du public.
Donc, elle provient de Daryl McIntosh, provenant de Russell. So it's from Daryl McIntosh Russell. Que pensez-vous de la promotion et du financement des médias canadiens nationaux comme Radio-Canada, CBC ou même des médias en ligne à but non lucratif? What are your thoughts on promoting and funding homegrown Canadian media like Radio-Canada, CBC, or even online not-for-profit media?
Monsieur Saint-Louis.
Okay, so the media is a big thing, a big question that's going on. Our government has supported media outlets by billions of dollars. When I'm watching certain events that are going on, I'm seeing other media sources that are not being able to have access. So I don't know if there's a fair trade-off. It just seems like, you know, there's the Liberal Party we've seen in the last little while has been giving a lot of money to media outlets where they let people go, and then the corporate leaders are getting bonuses. If the whole point is we, taxpayers, funding these media outlets, it shouldn't be to have people lose their jobs while the higher office ups get bonuses. So if we are going to invest in our media, it should be a fair and even media and not just a one-sided one version. I think that there's a lot of versions of the story that need to be told. There's a left, there's a right, and then there's right in the middle. And I think that you know, we should all have access to be able to have some media and have both sides of the stories told, and that should be even a fair trade-off. So I would like to see if any money is going to go out and be given out, it shouldn't be just to one platform. It should be the other way around. And furthermore, I don't even think that, you know, if a company is not being successful, there's not enough viewers watching or buying your program, why are we taxpayers paying for it? Let's look at some other alternatives.
Merci. Madame Mignarelli.
Yeah, so I believe that local news is critical. It's at the heart of Eastern Ontario. News outlets like TVC22, the Review and Le Régional, they're keeping our communities informed in English and in French. I commit very strongly to supporting our local media and backing them with, actually even during this campaign, backing them with ad purchases. So we're investing actively in all of the local news outlets to help spread the word about my own campaign. CBC Radio-Canada is receiving a commitment of $150 million of funding to modernize their local news infrastructure, ensuring that Prescott-Russell-Cumberland stories are told in both official languages. And then finally, you know, we have the Online News Act. So by redirecting online ad revenue from U.S. tech companies to Prescott-Russell-Cumberland giants, we can help keep our local news thriving and not just surviving.
Monsieur Ryden.
Good points. We would, Greens, we would definitely want to, again, ensuring nonpartisanship to the CBC, making sure that no political interference, so it's fulfilling its mandate. And it's also making sure that we support, like you say, local community TV, radio, and media. To that point, actually, even looking at potential, and this is where I would champion as an MP, is getting maybe more tools like an app. There's Ground News, and basically what this does, it aggregates all sorts of different media sources on one particular topic, and you can actually see, okay, well, this, you know, left-leaning media, right-leaning, more centrist, giving whoever's taking in these news that you can see, well, what is the bias, how is this topic being covered by different organizations, so you have a more well-rounded view of what's actually going on, and more critical thinking in our schools, I think, to be able to give our kids ways to understand that there's a lot of bias and filters that their media comes through. Do not trust what you see on the screens as much as possible, and diversify the sources of your news as much as possible.
Merci. Nous allons maintenant, René va lire une dernière question en ligne et ensuite on passera aux gens qui sont présents.
Oui, effectivement. Donc, il y a 3 questions. Je vais juste en passer une pour donner la chance aux autres personnes. Puis ensuite, on mettra les questions sur les commentaires. Alors, la question de Marc-Antoine Gagné. Question aux 3 candidats. Que comptez-vous faire pour les autismes, qu'ils puissent avoir droit à une subvention fédérale? Donc, on sait que les systèmes de santé, c'est provincial, mais par contre, l'argent vient des programmes fédéraux. Alors, est-ce que vous avez une opinion là-dessus? Merci.
Madame Mignarelli?
Et c'est pour l'autisme en particulier?
Oui.
OK. So, autism is a very significant issue. I have worked actually with the autism community in Canada through my work with a nonprofit organization to bring awareness to families with children who have autism, both nonverbal autism and, various degrees on the spectrum. I think especially in Prescott-Russell-Cumberland, we need to do more to support families, who are struggling to get access to health care that supports both their children and their family members with autism. I know that there are concerns. I've actually heard from different constituents about their concerns about a lack of access to doctors who can treat their kids. Needing to wait like 4 to 6 months to see a doctor, if not longer, is completely unacceptable. So I would be absolutely supporting the promotion of greater funding for doctors in our community for families with autism-related issues.
Merci. Mr. Ryden?
We would definitely, in the Green Platform, look to expand Medicare so it covers, okay, we already have dental care, we want to expand universal pharmacare, and also mental health. And to address that, we want to, make sure these services are available to families, especially anybody with an autistic child. So we just want to bring that universality to the services and really kind of make it universal. So we want to increase the coverage, and that would fall into, that would also cover autism.
Merci. Monsieur Saint-Louis?
I think this is a topic that it doesn't matter where we are, we all can agree on. This is a lot of these things, not just autism, but every kind of mental health attribute needs support, because it really to many people, it's not in your life, it's not really a concern, you don't really think about it. But until you meet somebody who has autism, you have a family member who has autism, and you're seeing the struggles that they have, then it becomes a little more into your reality. So I think that as a community, we need to support that and have a better understanding of it. We definitely need to support the people who need mental health support, and I would definitely, be sure to be speaking with these agencies and these individuals and supporting that mental health where it's needed, autism and everything in between, for sure.
Merci. Vous approchez. Soyez bref. Please be brief.
Mon nom, c'est Sylvain Saint-Pierre de l'ACFO de Prescott-Russell, directeur général. La disparition du poste de ministre des langues officielles dans le cabinet de Mark Carney inquiète l'ACFO de Prescott-Russell. En tant que prochaine députée, quel engagement seriez-vous prêt à faire pour le rétablir?
Monsieur Ryden.
Si tu pourras dire ça encore plus lente, s'il vous plaît. Difficile à entendre la question.
Oui, c'est par rapport la disparition, si on veut, du ministre des langues officielles du gouvernement Carney. Et puis, que feriez-vous pour vous assurer que l'impact soit... qu'il n'y ait pas d'impact ou de revoir cette situation de...
Well, OK. So quand même, pour moi, je comprends que Carney fait un cabinet plus petit. Pour le Parti vert, la position de ce ministre, même avec le ministre de l'Environnement, Guilbeault est maintenant sur le ministère de la Femme et je sais, j'oublie le reste du titre, mais bien sûr, les enjeux et cette responsabilité, le dossier, le travail, si je suis électé, je me bien sûr championner ou bâtir pour, ensurer que le français, le service en français, la protection de la culture, c'est front and center, c'est sur notre attention. Bien sûr, le court answer, c'est oui.
D'accord. Monsieur Saint-Louis?
Je m'excuse, je n'ai pas bien entendu la question. Et puis, des fois, le français, quand vous parlez comme vous êtes très français, je ne suis pas capable de mettre tous les mots en fonction. So, for now, I will divert to my other candidate, and maybe I can help answer the question off of her response.
Or you can jump into my question and interrupt me when, when there's 5 seconds left.
Okay.
Okay. Alors, merci pour la question. Comme j'ai dit, je suis très fière de parler les deux langues officielles. Je pense que c'est très important d'avoir un ministre ou une ministre pour protéger les langues officielles. Comme votre député, je vais travailler fort pour assurer que le premier ministre Mark Carney a tout ce qu'il a besoin pour immédiatement réintégrer la poste du ministre des deux langues officielles. C'est tout.
OK, je comprends ça. Je dirais que si, ça se peut que si M. Carney devrait être le premier ministre, c'est surtout que le monde veut être capable d'entendre ce qu'il a à dire dans les deux langues. Alors, Sylvain, pour moi, si notre premier ministre ne pourra pas parler en français, j'espère qu'il y aurait quelqu'un dans leur bureau qui devrait vous parler tous en français dès que tu peux avoir l'information en votre langue officielle.
D'accord. Prochaine question.
Bonjour, mon nom est Jean Lemay. Je suis président du conseil scolaire du district catholique de l'Est ontarien, dont l'école Sainte-Trinité, l'école ici à Hawkesbury, l'école Paul VI et l'école secondaire. On a 32 écoles dans nos 5 comtés. Je demande aux candidats, est-ce que vous allez aider les conseils scolaires francophones, dans notre cas francophone catholique, à avoir de l'aide du gouvernement fédéral à instaurer des hubs communautaires dans nos écoles. Hubs communautaires francophones, parce que dans certains endroits, le seul endroit qui est vraiment bien desservi au niveau de la francophonie, c'est l'école. Donc, on essaie d'installer des hubs communautaires où les organismes communautaires comme l'organisme que monsieur vient de nous parler, l'AEFO ou quoi que ce soit, s'installent dans nos écoles puis peuvent desservir la population francophone. Ça passe surtout, on sait que l'argent pour les conseils scolaires vient du provincial. Mais pour l'aide aux francophones, ça vient normalement de patrimoine canadien et qui déverse des argents pour nous aider à construire et à maintenir en place des hubs communautaires. Donc, est-ce que les partis qui sont représentés ici sont prêts à aider à faire ça en collaboration avec le provincial qui nous fournit l'argent pour la construction de l'école et le fédéral pourrait nous aider avec la construction de salles de spectacle, de hubs communautaires, d'endroits. Est-ce que les 3 partis sont prêts à faire ça?
Merci. Monsieur Saint-Louis.
Oui. Quand j'ai fait me présenter comme candidat provincial, j'ai parlé beaucoup avec Mme Anvers qui a dit qu'il n'y a pas de communauté où qui peut faire des choses. Okay? Alors, pour moi, c'est oui, l'argent. Où vient l'argent? Quand je fais mon research, je vois comme Global Affairs, il y a billions de notre taxpayer dollars qui vont tout partout dans le monde. Okay? Je pense que si on a de l'argent à donner à des autres pays, on devrait avoir de l'argent de nous donner à nous. Alors, moi, je vais être là, I will fight, je vais faire une bataille pour faire sûr qu'on peut avoir de l'argent fédéral pour aider les provinces et puis les petites municipalités comme ici pour aider avec les services comme ça, sûrement. On a de l'argent à dépenser, c'est notre argent, c'est nos tax dollars qu'on a, so we should have access to them. Merci.
Merci.
J'aimerais plus savoir par rapport au concept là, des hubs, comme qu'est-ce qui va se passer, c'est quoi les programmes. Mais oui, en général, je pense que c'est une bonne idée.
Merci, M. Ryden.
Merci pour ton question. Et bien sûr, je n'ai pas de numéros financiers, mais bien sûr, le Parti vert de son corps principal, c'est bien sûr devenir un partenaire avec les provinciaux pour soutenir les communautés. So, avec ça, bien sûr, si c'est une bonne chose pour faire à la communauté, comme Mme a dit, posé, j'ai besoin de plus d'informations, bien sûr, besoin pour faire grandir, envoyer le soutien à nos communautés. So, encore, je n'ai pas le numéro et tout ça, mais bien sûr, c'est un de notre principes de la Parti vert, c'est bien sûr soutien de la communauté locale.
Merci.
Juste vous remercier. Puis, l'heureux élu, on va aller vous rencontrer pour parler de ça. Merci.
Merci.
Là, je suis désolé, mais je vois le temps passer. Il nous reste à faire les allocutions de clôture. On peut peut-être permettre une dernière question, mais vraiment très brève, puis peut-être aussi les réponses devront être plus brèves. Alors, dernière question.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Coralie, born and raised in Clarence, Rockland, and for brevity's sake, I'll just ask my question in English. So a common theme in this year's election has been cutting taxes for the working class and the middle class in the region to help with the cost of living. And we've also talked about providing relief funds like EI programs and subsidies that help our region's small to medium enterprises thrive. But let's be clear here, taxes fund those programs, and we're seeing an increase in inequality across the nation. So what can you promise us in terms of taxing excess wealth and large corporations like the three-parent grocery chains that are engaging in price gouging to decrease that inequality and empower the workers? Thank you.
Monsieur Saint-Louis?
Great question. And again, it comes down to what I found in the provincial elections. By resourcing, looking at global affairs and these other agencies, there's billions of dollars of our taxpayers' money being allocated all over the world. Some is well-deserved and some is pretty frivolous. And so, as I understand what you're saying, cutting taxes, some services we need taxes for. I mentioned a while ago about eliminating consumer tax. Well, some people I've spoken to eliminate the income tax. We need taxes to support different agencies and things, right? This is what pays for things. Our taxes pay a collectively thing to support our country. But what I can say for sure is our taxpayer dollars by the billions are being awarded to other countries. We need to, I want to propose a audit of government efficiency to provide transparency and accountability for where our tax dollars are going so that we have more money available for programs, not just at a federal level, provincial level, but the province should have money to give away to our communities like we have here. We saw it happen in the last election. The last election came around, $76 million showed up, right, to give away to some of the, the bigger things. There's a lot of things that, a lot of agencies that need some support, so I'm there with you to try to support that.
Madame Mignarelli, yeah, s'il vous plaît.
Thank you so much for your question. As my colleague here just mentioned, the Liberal Party is eliminating the consumer carbon tax, which is going to save 18 cents per liter on gas, putting money back into workers' pockets. And then, of course, we have the middle class tax cut, right? So families will save up to $825 a year. And I'm going to leave it at that for now.
So no taxing the rich?
No, sorry, we don't have time for supplementary questions. Monsieur Ryden?
Thank you for that great question. So we mentioned, the income tax relief for the first $40,000. We also, on the other side of the equation, will go after tax evasion. We're talking big corporations here. We want to close loopholes, tax havens. There's about $39 billion, check that number please, but a big number that could be coming that was lost revenue. It's not fair that big corporations pay a lower rate than say teachers and nurses. So we would also bring the corporate tax rate to pre-Harper era rates. Again, we're talking fair share, paying your fair share. Also for ultra rich, and this is people making more than $1 million earnings, that you also pay your fair share. We're not talking eating the rich, we're talking about everybody pays their fair share.
Merci. So now we're going to go to the closing remarks, les allocutions de clôture. Vous avez chacun 1 minute et nous allons commencer avec M. Ryden, s'il vous plaît.
Thanks everybody for coming out. Merci à mes collègues pour présenter, pour être des candidats. C'est le temps pour faire des choix, des gros choix, or big choices. I'm going to push again for electoral reform. If there's anything that we can do, we're talking about affordability and other good things, but if we're talking about consequential things that we can put our politicians to task on, it's making our democracy work for us, listen to us, and represent us. So electoral reform to bring about proportional representation. This exists in Europe. You can check it out, Google it. It's not reinventing the wheel, but I think if we want to bring more voices to the table, like for example, Jason as independents, getting more diversity in our politics and representation so people feel more engaged and we can get to those people who have not been showing up to elections, which amounts to basically a non-vote of no confidence. We have to fix that now.
Merci. Monsieur Saint-Louis?
So again, I want to thank everybody for coming out here. I want to thank for the invite, thank for being here on stage. For those who didn't get a question answered, I'd be happy to sit to the side after and answer those for you. And finally, again, 90,000 registered voters in our community, only 48% showed up to vote. So the minority is split between all the other parties. So those of you who haven't decided on what you're going to do, who you're going to vote for, you again may be the independents that we're looking for. And if you would like to see something different and make a change for yourself, I encourage you to look at my platform, jasonstlouis.ca, and let's look at voting independent. I helped create an association called the Independent Candidates Association of Canada, where we are helping to support other individuals in their own ridings to become an independent candidate, speak to their constituents and be a voice for them, because really it's you people that need to be heard. So I encourage you to do what you can, look around and make a choice. Thank you.
Merci. Madame Mignarelli?
Merci beaucoup tout le monde. Le Canada fait face à des menaces sans précédent envers notre économie et notre souveraineté, en provenance de notre principal partenaire commercial au sud de la frontière. Cela demande une direction forte et expérimentée. Si vous m'élisez comme votre député pour Prescott-Russell-Cumberland, je travaillerai à chaque jour avec le premier ministre Mark Carney et son équipe pour combattre les tarifs douaniers et renforcer notre circonscription et notre pays. Unlike Pierre Poilievre, who has never met a payroll, Mark Carney has. As governor of the Bank of Canada, he played a major role in helping Canada avoid the worst impacts of 2008 financial crisis, and he will do it again against Trump's unfair tariffs. Pierre Poilievre is in sync with Donald Trump. Mark Carney will fight Trump on behalf of all Canadians. On April 28th, I ask for your vote. Thank you to my fellow candidates for debating today. Un grand merci à tout le monde.
Merci. Et donc, pour conclure, je vais passer la parole à Renée Gratton, directrice générale de TVC 22, pour le mot de clôture. So I now invite Renée Gratton, who's Director General of TVC 22, for closing remarks.
Merci. Merci, José. Merci, Dania. Et nos 3 candidats, effectivement, il y en a 6. Ils ont tous été invités. Puis, je voudrais qu'on donne une autre main d'applaudissement à nos 3 candidats qui sont présents parce que, de un, ça prend du courage de se lancer en campagne d'abord. Et puis, de 2, c'est un engagement de prendre le temps de venir ici et puis vous parler en personne. Alors, merci à vous 3. Puis, je veux tout simplement terminer, évidemment, en vous remerciant, vous, d'être ici et ceux qui nous ont écoutés en ligne. Je vais aussi remercier sincèrement James, The Review, et puis l'équipe de GoFM aussi, Richard Guillermo. Je pense qu'on a parlé des médias. les médias, ça devient de plus en plus difficile. TVC 22 est maintenant non seulement la dernière station de télévision qui reste dans notre comté, on est bilingue, mais ce qui est de plus en plus important, c'est qu'on protège la francophonie, mais maintenant, de travailler ensemble avec les autres médias. Plus c'est difficile, plus c'est important de travailler ensemble. On a aussi Radio-Canada qui a porté attention. Alors, je remercie les deux organisations là, vraiment là, d'avoir embarqué sans aucune question. It was a no-brainer. Et puis, tous les employés de TVC 22, il y a des bénévoles, il y a toutes sortes de gens, puis le travail absolument extraordinaire. Il y a toute une équipe en arrière que vous ne voyez pas. Donc, je termine en remerciant vraiment tout le monde. Et puis, je renforce. Allez voter, s'il vous plaît. Merci.